Hey everybody, it's Uniformed Historian here, and happy Halloween! In the spirit of Halloween, I've decided to tell you all some of my spookier encounters that I've had during my travels around the state and the East Coast over the last 15 years or so that I've been doing this unique hobby. And tonight, I want to start out with a couple of stories that I myself experienced. And later on, I'm going to tell you all some stories that have been relayed to me by other people, but I'm going to begin with the ones that happened to me. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, this first story that I'm going to relay to you guys happened to me at a place called Droop Mountain, West Virginia. This would have been back in sometime between 2006 and 2009. I don't remember exactly what year it was now. I was still in high school at the time, and we were there portraying Confederate soldiers for the reenactment weekend. We went out into the field and we started on what was called a tactical, which is kind of like war games. It's literally one side trying to outthink the other side. We're not recreating anything that happened historically. It's just kind of a game for the reenactors. There's an objective that you have to meet, or you have to defend a hill, or there's something that you have to accomplish. Well, we were sent out as skirmishers, which in modern day terminology, you might call us the recon force. You go out, find the enemy, find out, what their strength is, where they are they dug in or not, that sort of thing. Well, we went into the woods looking for the Union soldiers that weekend, and we didn't get very far into the woods, and we found them. They were behind a downed tree. There were shrubs and bushes. Just kind of a naturally easily defended position. So our captain, Dan, at the time, he sees them and he says, well, there they are. Let's, fire a couple of shots at them. So we start firing by file. We did a couple of volley fires, the entire company shooting at them. Excuse me. And they never shot back at us. And all you could really see was from here up. You could see sometimes their eyeballs, usually just the tops of their hats, and bayonets and the tops of their muskets, standing, behind, where this brush was. So didn't have a very good look at them. You could just see the tops of them, and they never shot back at us. So Dan says, well, maybe they're out of ammunition. Let's push them. So we fixed our bayonets. We formed up into a company. And we started hooping and hollering and giving the rebel yell, and ran right up to them. And when we got to that downed tree and all that brush, nothing. Nobody was there. We were all pretty puzzled. So we're looking around trying to figure out, where did these guys go exactly? Who are they and where did they go? Well, we know they didn't go that way because there's an incline there. They didn't go over here because there's a drop off. We would have seen them go that way because it's open. Where did these guys go to? So while we're standing there trying to collect our thoughts and figure out where these Yankees have run off to, we hear boom, boom, boom out in the distance. And so we take off running towards the sound of the gunfire, and we ran for probably a good 10 minutes trying to find this place, just following the noise as it echoes through the woods. We finally get to where the noise is coming from, just in time to see the end of the tactical. And everybody was accounted for over there. So, who exactly was behind that tree? I have no idea. Never saw them again. They kind of disappeared. I have a whole company of reenactors that will testify to it. They were there and saw it as well. And I should introduce you all to Mr. Mooney. He's my buddy. Say hello, Mooney. Hi. That's Mooney. He likes to jump up on my lap sometimes, so he's going to join us for a little bit of these stories tonight. But anyway, so yeah, we never did get an answer to who those guys were, but I've got a feeling that I'm glad they didn't shoot back. So the next story that I'm going to relay to you also happened at Droop Mountain. And I think Droop Mountain, West Virginia should be labeled one of the most haunted, if not the most haunted place in the state of West Virginia. Every time I go there, something creepy happens. This particular story that I'm going to relay to you happened at Droop Mountain, I'm going to say I was in college at the time, so probably 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. We were actually portraying Union soldiers at this particular event. It was a reenactment weekend again. We went up there and we were in the federal camp, and several of us had gotten bored. So we decided we were going to take our coffee, our Coke, whatever, and we were going to go walking into the woods and just see what we can see. Well, we get out into this spot in the woods on one of the trails, and we decide we're going to stop and rest our legs here for a minute. So we all sit down. And in the distance, we heard boom, 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 like a bass drum, not like a gunshot. And we're thinking, that's weird. I don't remember anybody having a bass drum out here. Then we heard a crack, which was a musket that went off. So we don't think a whole lot of this because the park is a pretty good size. I don't know exactly how many acres it is or exactly how much ground those trails cover, but there's pretty good sized park there. I mean, you can walk 15 minutes one way and still not complete a full circle on that trail. So I don't know exactly how far we were from Confederate camp at that point, but we figured out that it must have been the Confederates in their camp doing some kind of night fighting or something. I don't know. Maybe they were as bored as we were. So we hear this crack of musket fire, and then we hear another one, and another one, and another one, and pretty soon it sounds like an all-out battle going on. So we just sit there and listen, and we can hear people yelling and screaming, and there's a bugle blowing. I mean, we can hear this full-on battle going on somewhere out in these woods. It's pitch black. We have no idea where we even are looking at this point. And then it all just kind of dissipates. It all just kind of goes away. So we don't think too much of it. We go back to camp, we stoke our fires, we go to bed. Well, the next morning, we go to the officers' meeting, which is where reenactors get together and we talk about the scenario for the day and how we're going to make sure that it goes smoothly and safely so that we can portray what actually happened for the spectators that might show up. I get to talking to the Confederate commander, and I said, man, you guys really had a heck of a fight over there last night, didn't you? And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, yeah, we heard you guys shooting and fighting against each other. Who won your guys' little event over there? And he kind of gave me this strange look, and he looks over at some of his guys. He says, no, we had a pretty quiet night in camp. I said, well, did you guys not hear all those gunshots and stuff? And he says, yeah, we thought that was you guys. So, where did this battle happen? I couldn't tell you. Who was it? Nobody knows. To this day, we still have not figured this out. I can only assume that it was the spirits of the people who fought there in 1863. So, to go somewhere a little bit different from Droop Mountain, because I've got a million stories, but those are the best two that I have that personally happened to me. I will come back and tell you one more story from Droop Mountain. But for now, the next story that I'm going to tell you guys actually happened in my hometown of Marmet. There for a while, I was organizing a reenactment weekend there, and we called it the Skirmish at Brownstown because Brownstown is what Marmet was called in 1861, 1865, that time frame. Didn't become Marmet until the early 1900s. But anyway, there's the historic Ebenezer Chapel there, the home of the Elizaville Historical Society. And I was the first person there. Obviously, I was the event host. And I drove up to the church, and I'm the first person there, of course. And I get out of my car, and I start to walk up to the church to unlock the gate. And I look up, and you guys know how when you're like walking by something and it obstructs your vision for just that long? Well, that's kind of what happened to me. There was a phone pole between me and the church as I start to walk, towards the church. There's a phone pole that obstructs my vision. I look up just long enough to see a Union soldier trying to open the front door, and I had just enough time to say, "Hey, buddy, it's locked. I'll let you in." as I went to walk past this phone pole, and when I got to the other side of the phone pole, nobody was there. So I get inside the gate, I start looking around, I look inside the church, I get the door open, look inside, there's no one there. Nobody's outside the church, and I'm thinking, well, gee, that's really odd. And so I turn around to go back out, and lo and behold, the first reenactors of the weekend are rolling up into the parking lot. Now, another year at Marmet, this was maybe the second time that we did this event. Didn't have anything spooky happen when I was getting the place ready for the event, but I did have something happen one night when I was staying inside the church. To my knowledge, nobody actually is buried on the grounds anymore, except for a very small family plot, and I believe that family is somehow connected to the churches while they were left there. All the other graves in that graveyard area were moved to Marmet Memorial Gardens when they were putting the interstate in, so that their graves wouldn't be disturbed. So there's only a couple of graves there, but the church itself had been used as both a hospital, it was used as a jail, it was used as a schoolroom at one point. I mean, the church has been used for it kind of was a jack of all trades. It served a lot of purposes. During the Civil War, it was a headquarters for Union soldiers in the Kanawha Valley. One of the particular stories that I like to tell is the story of Jacob Edelman. And he was a German immigrant who was living in Marmet at the time, or Brownstown, I should say. And he was working on the riverboats there, loading barges. And he would grind grain for soldiers to make extra money on the side. Well, when the Civil War broke out, he was not a United States citizen. And when the Confederates came in the fall of 1862, he would grind grain for them to make that extra money I was telling you about. Well, when the Confederates left in November of 1862 and the Union soldiers came back into the Kanawha Valley, they were outraged that this guy had helped these Confederates. So they went and they arrested him and they locked him inside the jail for a few days until finally they had to release him because they determined he was not a U.S. citizen and thus he couldn't really be held with treason because he had no allegiance. So they had to let him go. But as far as the ghost story of this goes, one other person and myself found ourselves sleeping inside the church one night. Everybody else had gone outside or to their vehicles or had left already. It was just me and one other person inside this church. I don't know how long we'd been in there, but I mean, we'd been snoozing pretty well for a while. And something woke me up. I forget what it was now, but I just naturally woke up on my own, and I could see movement across the room. And you know how when you first wake up, your vision's still kind of blurry, and you kind of rub your eyes, and am I looking at this right? Of course, bearing in mind it's also pitch black inside this room, can't really see much. But I finally get my eyes to focus a little bit better, and that's when I saw it. There was a person walking along the far wall inside the room with us. I flipped. Not because I thought it was a ghost, but because I thought somebody had broken into the church with us while we were asleep. I mean, you could tell it was a person. You could hear the footsteps creaking as they were walking on these wooden floors. So I try to wake up the other guy that's with me. I'm like, hey, buddy, hey, get up, get your gun, get up. And I take off running for the door, because I can hit the light switches and get outside if I have to or whatever. And I can hear this floor creaking as this person's walking, along that far wall. I get over to the door, flip the light switch on. Nobody was there. Nobody was there. I know I wasn't dreaming. And I know that the other guy saw it because we've talked about it since then. He remembers it just as well as I do. And like I said, I'm not going to give out other people's names because I don't know if they want people to know that they experienced this stuff or not. Me personally, I don't care who knows. I'm a huge believer in the paranormal and in spirits and such, and I love them. So I don't care who knows that I know this stuff, but I'm going to protect other people just in case they don't want their name thrown out there. But we still talk about that experience to this day and how that's one of the creepiest things he's ever experienced. Another creepy story to tell you guys about happened not really at a Civil War event, but if you can believe this or not, I was actually taking a group of my friends on a tour of a local cemetery here around Halloween time a few years back. And we went into this cemetery, and I was showing them, this is where Senator Van Winkle is buried, and we showed them this statue, and you know how you do, you just show people around. Well, I guess I got a little bit distracted on my phone at the end of this tour, and I'm walking out towards the gate, and I'm just typing away whatever I was sending, and I feel somebody pat me on the back just like that. And I turn around, everybody else is like 20 feet behind me, and I said, all right, who's screwing with me? And they all look up from their phones. They're like, what? Who's screwing with you? I said, someone just tapped me on the shoulder. Which one of you guys was it? It wasn't any of them. So I don't know if maybe the spirits there just knew that I didn't mean them any harm. Maybe they were thanking me for remembering them. I just don't know. But that's one of the more recent experiences that I've had, like maybe in the last 3 or 4 years. Another place that's a little bit haunted, not so much as Droop Mountain, Carnifex Ferry. If you don't know the story of Carnifex Ferry, it was a very early war battle. It happened in September of 1861, and there weren't very many Confederate casualties there. There were several Union casualties, but I don't believe we know how many Confederate fatalities there actually were there. There is one Confederate soldier who is buried there, and he is buried up on that hillside just past the Patterson House, where the artillery piece is on the Union side of the field. He's still buried there even today, and at the time of the battle, his grave would have been fresh. And I think that we got a picture of him. I apologize for any background noise you guys are going to hear. I've got cats and dogs running around all over the place, so I do apologize if you guys hear random noises or see the camera shake randomly. Not ghosts, it's my animals. I got a whole house full of them. But we were at Carnifex Ferry about 10 years ago, I'd say. Again, I was in high school at the time. And we caught a pretty clear image of what appears to be a Confederate soldier walking into the tree line. And there's not really a whole lot that I can even tell you guys about this story, because we don't know exactly who it was. We don't know, why they were where they were. All I know is that we got this picture, and it's one of those stories that I just like to tell people, that we were all there late at night. We were all together, just taking pictures of the park, and in one of the photos, which I will put here for you, in one of those photos, we got a clear image of a Confederate soldier going into the tree line. So clearly Carnifex Ferry is a little bit haunted. Another story that I'll pass along to you guys, this one did not happen to me. This one was relayed to me by someone else. Going back to Droop Mountain, there was a group of reenactors walking down the road, and while they were walking, they had a Confederate cavalryman on horseback riding up to them. So they're walking this way, cavalryman's walking this way, or riding this way, I'm sorry. And they see him, and they're thinking, oh, wow, he's got a really good impression. That looks spot on. So he rides up past them, and, hey, how's it going? They exchange pleasantries. And once he rides on past them, they kind of look at each other, oh, man, that guy looked really good. And when they turn around behind him, he wasn't there. I've heard of all kinds of stories like that happening to people, but that's the only story I've ever had told to me by the person that it happened to. The last story that I'm going to tell you guys this evening isn't exactly Civil War directly related, but it does have something to do with the Civil War. My pawpaw died in 2010, and after he died, I inherited all of his relics that he had found over a career of 50 plus years of metal detecting down in the Richmond area. After he died, my mom and I drove down to pick up the relics from his house. And when we got there, we pulled into the driveway, we got out of the car, and we started to walk up to the front door. And that's when we smelled cigarette smoke. His wife, my step grandmother, does not smoke. But you know what? I knew my pawpaw was there, waiting on us to make sure that we got the relics, because that's exactly what he used to do. He would sit outside when he knew we would be getting close, and he'd smoke his cigarette and wait on us to show up. So I just know that that was the last time that he was waiting on me to see me one last time while I picked up those relics that he wanted me to have. On that note, I'm going to leave you guys be. I hope you all have a very safe and a very enjoyable Halloween with your family and your kids and your friends. If you're going out partying, please be safe, don't drink and drive. And if you have ever experienced any ghost stories, whether they're Civil War related or not, shoot me a message if you want to, or put them in the comments below and let me know about them. I love hearing these stories, especially from people I know. So you guys take care, God bless, and have a very, very happy All Hallows Eve.